Hey, you crazy cats! 42's live streams and videos are simply not available on vinyl. You will have to go to the YouTubes for that. So if you want content about British traditions and culture, cutting edge social commentary from an unapologetically patriotic perspective, along with a side order of madness you simply will not find anywhere else, then this is the place for you. And to all those early adopters in the chat, don't forget to hit the notification bell. That's how you get the good stuff, and make sure you never miss a tasty treat. So with that being said and done, squeeze yourself in. Let's get into it. You know you want to. Good afternoon, good morning, good evening. Please delete as applicable because the internet is worldwide. Time zones are still a thing. And holy God, yes, I did get myself from the intro to on the screen. I think I may have got used to how StreamYard is currently wanting to work. People, it's amazing. It is. Welcome to the show. I'll start off by asking you to give me a quick audio check in the chat. Let me know that people can actually hear this drivel. And we'll say some hellos. All right, Pi. Pizzle, what about you, chum? Really glad to see you here. I'm going to come back to you in a moment or two. Mr. Budgie Burger is here, the funniest commenter on the whole of the fucking internet, and we have him here every week. People enjoy this while it lasts. Rich from RPW Media is claiming second, but yeah, on my screen you came in as third. But thank you for the effort and welcome aboard, Mr. Captain Paka. What about you, chum? Welcome aboard. Arms is in. Glad to have you here. Lofer Shefford's here. Yeah, Wilfred Sheffield is actually here for the start, but he has 3 tabs open. Coventry was bad, so was Dresden. Yeah, I would say Dresden was bad. Wouldn't have fancied being on the ground there in either of those places. I agree, and we will see. Sounds good. The audio's good. Brad James is in. Welcome aboard. Anglo-Saxon, evening, brother. Glad to have you here. Bass is not here, so be advised his replies might be slow if you're chatting to him because it's hard to chat when you're not here. Coventry is bad now. Yeah, I don't know if the events were to be recreated next week. How many millions of improvements do you think it would cost? And is Coventry one of those places where we are getting to the point where we have historically important piles of rubbish? That's a really good question. I'm not 100% sure, Martin, where we are in the scale of things with that. Not being local to Coventry, but there you go. So, what do we want to do next? The next thing we're going to do is we're going to give a couple of shout outs. First one we're going to do would be RPW Media Rich. This profile here, go subscribe. Rich does really good shows, does a live stream on a Friday night, which is basically, I'll tell you why, Rich, tell you why I really like your live stream on a Friday night. I can get all the news, everything I need to know for the week coming out of America in one fucking fell swoop. Granted, because of the time zones and beer, sometimes retain all the information, but I do give it the best shot. So if you want to know what's going on in America and a little bit around the world, Rich is your man for that. He's got a whole website behind there with all sorts of resources and stuff. It's really good. The other person I'd like to give a shout out to who does a very similar thing, only with Australian input is Robin, Courage is a Cure. She's on pretty much every platform that there could be. So you find her somewhere. And again, keep you up to date with what's going on in the world of woke and all of the madness. Hold on, I need to just jump in and address something. The wonderful, amazing, super sexy Emma G. Love you loads too, and I hope you get some good sleep. Emma's feeling a little bit poorly at the moment. Nothing serious, just cold, sore throat type stuff. But I hope you get a good night's sleep, and I hope you feel better in the morning. I managed to do that without getting myself into any sort of bother. It's fooling all mates now. I thought that. Mate, you are very, very welcome. People, you will see Rich back on here soon. I would guess in December. This is all out of order. Well, I don't mean out of order as in wrong. I mean out of order as in it's not the order I should be addressing all of this, but fuck it. We're here now. We're doing it. What I hope to do in December, where I would normally do the end of the month and have the regular Sansom or Paka co-host and one, possibly two other guests. I'm intending having the first channel Christmas party where I'm going to be inviting the people who have been on throughout the year as guests. And Rich has intimated that he's up for that, so hopefully you'll see him here then. The other thing I'm going to address is this boyo here, RPOW, the real piece of work, otherwise known as Pizzle, will be the end of the month guest next week, so you'll see him on here with that. I do not anticipate there to be too many of the mud floods, but one never knows with the end of the month stream. So obviously he'll be getting an invite to that end of the month thing as well. It's a busy time of the year for anybody involved in music, so I'm not sure if Al Mac will be able to make it, but he'll obviously get an invite from a lot of other people, and hopefully we will have a laugh and enjoy that stream. So that's coming up. And now I'm all out of sorts and don't even know what the fuck order I'm in with my shoutouts. And I need to keep checking the comments because someone sneaked in here. Linda Hunter and Dawn Browning have sneaked in from down under. Welcome aboard. Really glad to have you here. Brad, I say hello. Yep, the 29th. Yes, mate. We will see what madness we can get up to. Now, the next thing that we're going to is no, that did not produce the link that I thought it was going to produce. So just bear with me one momento. Open that link. Yes. The next shout out that we have is this one here. Here we go. Add that to the stage. Check out the tune. This is the Handcrafted by Emma G Facebook page, and the music will stop and we shall get larger pictures of these are little Christmas baubles for your little doggy with the paw print or the doggy bones, and you can put little treats in there for the animal for Christmas. I will also. Oh yeah, Santa Claus. You get these. These are all personalised. MG does these individually, and you can refill them. You can also get from the same shop from the wonderful MG. You can get humanoid ones with letters on them, and I'm going to put this link in. No, hold on. Yeah, I need to delete that. Yeah, that didn't work. Oh yeah. Oh, arms, they are cute. And let's see, where was I? Yes, I'm going to get the link for that Facebook page. And hopefully this. Yep. If you go on to that, if you click on that link, that should take you to the Facebook page of your Facebook manager member. You just hit subscribe to that and find your way back to that and message the profile if you like to order any of these Christmas balls. And on that shop, there's a lot of other stuff. Emma G is very fucking talented and great with the arts and crafts and stuff. So there's that. Now, and to conclude our shout-outs, and our shout-outs would not be complete without this one. It is, of course, the one, the only, the Dave Waffle House. Dave Waffle House streams every weeknight, Monday through Friday, from 8:30 to 10 o'clock. Although, to be fair, he has the longest intro in the world. So at 7 o'clock, you will get music from Sunday Club Records, which Mrs. Waffle is involved in, which is all quite good. There's a really lovely community there. It is literally the pub. It's where you go to check in, say hello, and if you're not there for a couple of weeks and you drop back in again, everybody's happy to see you again. It's really great. It's not mandatory that you turn up every night. But drop in there, you'll find nice people to interact with. I will say that there's something going terribly wrong with the duck race, the world's best duck race, which occurs every Friday night at 9:20 or a little after that, because Dawn should really have won that by now. I don't know what the hell's going on. I think it's fixed. It's fixed. But if goodwill was enough to get you to win the duck race, Dawn would have won it by now. So there you go. That is all of the intros. And yes, Mr. Blackjack Guitar, welcome aboard, chum. Glad to have you here. And we are going to eventually start to think about this whole Coventry Blitz. And we're going to start off with a quick overview, and this is coming from Coventry City Council, no less. So it's a very authoritative source, and it's 20 things that you need to know. So this will give us a very quick overview before we get into the deep dive. Add that on. Oh, fuck. Oh, Dawn. That's priceless. Oh, yeah. That was priceless. Right. Okay. I think we'll make this a little bit larger. I need to cough before start. Get some liquid. Sorry about that, people. All right, okay. 20 facts you might not know. The R rate in Coventry on the night of 14th of November 1940 was the single most concentrated attack on a British city in the Second World War. And this bit, the 14th of November, is why we're talking about it now, because it's an anniversary. Following the raid, Nazi propagandists coined a new word in German, coventrieren, as in to raise a city to the ground. They did it so well that they're inventing new names. Codenamed Moonlight Sonata, the raid lasted for 11 hours and involved nearly 500 Luftwaffe bombers gathered from airfields all over occupied Europe. The aim was to knock out Coventry as a major centre for war production. It was said too that Hitler ordered the raid as revenge for an RAF attack on Munich. Quite exactly what Coventry's got to do with Munich, I have no fucking clue. I don't even know if they're similar sizes as cities, but this is where this is where it went. 14th of November was a brilliant moonlit night, so bright the traffic could move around on the road without light. That would be the harvest moon. The Luftwaffe dropped 500 tons of high explosives, 30,000 incendiaries, and 50 landmines. It was also trying out a new weapon, the exploding incendiary. So this will explode and go on fire. It was great. Coventry lost not only its great medieval church of St. Michael's, the only English cathedral to be destroyed in the Second World War, but its central library, a market hall, hundreds of shops and public buildings, and the 16th century palace yard where James II had once held court. So there's historical stuff got disappeared then. The smell and heat of the burning city reached into the cockpits of the German bombers, 6,000 feet above. Fuck. That's not good. What would also be not good if I'm still fucking muted? I'm not. More than 43,000 homes, just over half the city's housing stock, were damaged or destroyed in the raid. The fire to the city's huge Daimler works was one of the biggest in the war in Britain, up to 150 high explosive bombs and 3,000 incendiaries, turned 15 acres of factory buildings into a raging inferno. And I would guess that they probably did have night shifts and stuff running. If it was war production, there would at least be a skeleton crew in there. King George VI. Oh, hold on. At midday the next day in Coventry, it was as warm as spring and almost dark because of the effects of the firestorms. So I'm guessing there was cloud and stuff blocking out the sun, but it was still very fucking warm. King George VI is said to have wept as he stood in the ruins of the burned out cathedral, surveying the destruction. The people of the city were traumatized. No shit. Yeah. Your whole fucking city turning into rubble overnight. That would be a bit of a trauma. Hundreds wandered to the streets in the days with little children were seen trying to burrow their way through the solid brick walls to escape the terrifying noise. One of the city's 3 statues of Peeping Tom was blown out of its niche in its high building and lay on the street, where shocked passers-by mistook it for another human corpse in the blackout. Yeah, try giving fucking mouth to a statue. Doesn't work very well. Could be sore. One man recalled being pursued down a street by a knee-high river of boiling butter from a nearby blazing dairy. Holy fuck. That's fucking scary. hit the dairy, the butter all melts and fucking, oh God. That would not be a pleasant way to die. At one point during the night, an abandoned tram was blown clean over a house and into a garden. It landed with its windows still intact. They built the trams pretty solid in those days. The official death toll from the night was 554, but the real figure could have been much higher, with many people unaccounted for. As help poured in the next day, demolition crews had to be prevented from pulling down the cathedral tower. They didn't realise it had been leaning for the last 100 years. Yeah, so they looked at something and went, that's not quite straight. It's maybe in danger. But like the Tower Pizza or the Albert Clock, we have a lot of these things with a little bit of subsidence, and they lean a little bit, and then they were told, yeah, no, you can leave that tower. It's always been like that. On the day of the mass funerals, fighter patrols were sent up into the skies above the city. It was thought the Germans might try to bomb the cemetery. Yeah. Yeah, by 1947, Coventry had adopted its first German twin city, Kiel. Dresden followed in 1956. The ruined cathedral now stands for international peace and reconciliation. People, do you not fucking learn? See anybody. See whenever people can be bombing your city to the point where they can feel the heat and smell the smoke 6,000 miles above you. I just want to double check that. Yeah. The smell and heat from the burning city reached the cockpits of the German bombers 6,000 feet above. Right, 6,000 feet up, you're still getting the heat. See the people that can do that to you, there can be no reconciliation with them. It can't work. It's not going to work. They don't like you. They've made their point. They've chased you down the street with rivers of fucking melted butter. Peace and reconciliation is not going to be. And while the people of Dresden did face a very similar plight to the people of Coventry and all of that, you can see that, yeah, these people have been through similar shit, but it's for very different reasons. And the reason why the people of Dresden ended up in that position was because of their shitty choices. And because their country decided to create a fucking war. So don't be thinking you're the same. And with that, I'm going to go and check the chat. Close you down and in the StreamYard. Yeah. People can only learn that. Their leaders got elected, Martin. This is a frightening thing. Their leaders got elected. Yeah. And yes, a lot of trauma looking at Coventry in 2025, I would presume. I believe he was. To be fair, I am far from an expert of Patton, and there are some aspects of that man that I really do not like, such as the ways he deals with the people who were serving under him. But I think he had the right idea about how to win a war. So there's the starter, and now we will attempt to have a look at the main course. Open this up. And this is a whole blog on Coventry's Blitz. I'm not sure if we're going to get through all of it, but we will see. First thing we'll do is we'll share the screen. Coventry's Blitz. Bump, bump, bump. Coventry's long history's been shaped by many events, some bringing prosperity, others misfortune. Two particular events, however, have had the most dire consequences. The first being the dissolution of the monasteries in the 16th century, and more recently, the World War II, the area which the Germans named Operation Moonlight Santa, but which we in Coventry are more familiar with as the Blitz. This particular air raid was far more indiscriminate and inhumane than anything our city had ever experienced. And although London was already suffering more bombs and casualties during the previous 3 months of World War II, it was the concentration of the raid on our relatively small town centre that brought this horrific attack on Coventry to the immediate attention of the whole world. The publicity itself was a break from convention. The results of such an attack were usually kept quiet. However, the Ministry of Information chose on this occasion to make use of the press to expose the senseless brutality of the Nazis, while trying to hide that. See, here's the thing. As much as Dresden and other bombing raids were very horrible, there comes a point where you have to play by the rules of the game. We did not set the rules of this game, so we had to abide by them, and we had to use the same tactics that the enemy was willing to use on us. Sad but true. However, the Ministry of Information chose this occasion to make a press. The reporting of the destruction of so many homes, and especially the cathedral, soon brought the scorn on the enemy from all quarters of the civilized world. On the night of Thursday, 14th November 1940, though it was all about Coventry, its people, and how they dealt with it, the next few pages will look at many aspects of how it deeply affected our city, and how, if it hadn't been for an unfortunate area, the raid might even have been foiled. This is just some information about his sources, and we're going on to the next page. Despite the government's reluctance to publicly declare that another war was likely, as early as 1934, preparations were being made quietly in case the unthinkable happened. In the air defence exercise that year, in addition to London, Coventry and Birmingham were singled out as the most likely enemy bombing targets, and forming a defence against air attacks in London and the Midlands was made a priority. Coventry's subsequent susceptibility was no selectability was no surprise, since the growing here of the cycle and motor trades in the closing decades of the 19th century. Coventry, with its engineering skills and manufacturing capacity, had become the obvious place for mass production of many war-related products. The First World War had promoted a build-up of armament factories in the city, and this was ramped up once again with the imminent arrival of World War II. One thing I would like to say here is, generally speaking, in peacetime, we had a manufacturing base that was good enough to do this in peacetime. Then come World War One, everything gets ramped up, it ramps back down again. World War II comes along, it ramps back up again, it ramps back down again, and then it fucking goes away. So if we were faced with an actual proper war where we needed lots of stuff, we can't build it. We don't have the facilities. It's as simple as that. Which is not good. Most of our factories were turned over to war production, and among those were Dunlop, who manufactured wheel discs, brakes, gun mechanisms, and even barrage balloons. Hawker, Sydney, Vickers, Armstrong, Worthing, and Rolls-Royce, producing aeroplanes, engines, and associated parts, including the complete Whitney twin-engined heavy bomber. 1 second, I need to cough. People overcompensating because of the Nazis is what has fucked Europe up now. Yeah, and the Nazis only happened because of the Versailles Peace Treaty being absolute dog shit and no use to anybody, and basically baked another world war into the system. Right. 1 second, where was I? Humber and Daimler also made armoured troop transporters and scout cars, and the caches and quadruples produced materials for things like parachutes, GEC transporters and scout cars, and provided radar equipment, including the new VHF sets, and British Thompson Houston were turning out electromagnetic components such as magnets and dynamos. Right, so we were making a whole load of shit. I'm going to be skipping chunks of this because there's a lot to get through. Was it a legitimate target? Taking into account the above reasons, Coventry could definitely be considered a military target. So chances are an attack on a large scale would have happened sooner or later. Newsflash. Under the rules of war, when you're playing nice and inside the Geneva Convention, anything that you do that has an effect on the war effort can be a legitimate target. Now, that generally stops at the point where your connection to the war effort is producing food, some of which will go to the army, without a doubt. But the idea is that basically all this food stuff's really for the citizens, and you leave that alone. Although burning crops is something that has happened for a very long time. But there you go. So yeah, if you've got a factory down there and it's making parts for an airplane, yeah, you can go ahead and bomb that. It's perfectly legit. However, it seems this particular mid-November Blitz had its seeds sown a few days earlier. On Friday the 8th of November, that night the RAF bombed Munich, the homeland of the Nazi Party. It wasn't a particularly effective raid from a strategic point of view, but Hitler saw this as a personal insult, and it inflamed his wish to seek revenge in the most devastating way he knew. The Fuhrer was infuriated, and a city in England was about to pay the price. Do you know what? I don't buy this. I do not buy this rationale where something happens to British people and yeah, use made us do that. Nah, Hitler decided he was going to fucking flatten the city, and he flattened the city. I do not believe for one moment that the raid in Munich made any real difference. Possibly might have adjusted the timing, but he was always going to do this. Although Hitler could use the military tag to try to justify his actions, I think his actions were justified. He's at war. It's quite plain that this raid, and indeed the Blitz on English cities as a whole, was done in the hope that the sheer horror of his actions would bring the citizens to their knees. When we consider how horrific these nights were, with people losing family, friends, homes in their town centre, and indeed everything they'd ever owned and worked for, it's not surprising that the Germans felt they could batter us into submission. Before the raids began, Even psychological experts in our own country thought that the general populace would be unable to cope with such actions. Have they ever read a fucking history book? Have they seen what our people have been through? Have they seen yeah, Romans came, they went, Normans came, they're still here, but in general we don't get on with them. They laid waste the whole fucking towns, and yet we continued and produced the Magna Carta and stuff like that. So anybody that thought that this was going to break the will of the British people has no understanding of our history. And with that, we're going to the next. We're going to skip the preparation for war because I want to get to the actual Blitz. And here we go to defending Coventry, and I want to just check the chat and the time. Spanish Chicken, this is entirely true. The winners do write the history. Although having said that, in a lot of the cases, the winners do such a shitty job of protecting the history that they inadvertently allow the losers to write it on their behalf, and it becomes all very fucked up. But that is how we are. In 1940, the principal form of defence against night attacks comprised anti-aircraft guns and barrage balloons. By the 14th of November, Coventry had 56 barrage balloons, which were tactically deployed at various heights of around 5,000 feet, nearly a mile, and were intended to keep the German bombers at a height at which bombing accuracy would be poor, and also discourage dive bombing. But some visual accounts by Coventry citizens suggest this was not wholly effective. So not only do you have those barrage balloons, but you've got that big metal cable that tethers the barrage balloon to the floor, and that will cut off a chop of wing, a slice of wing. Contrary to public opinion, aircraft are not the most solid things in the world. Those wings are very vulnerable, and if you've ever seen an aircraft that has crashed and hit a lamppost on one of the lampposts on the runways, you'll see exactly how solid those wings are. I know that you see a lot of footage of aircraft that has been shot through with small fire, whatever, and making it home. But be advised, those shots go in one side, out the other, and pass on through. They are not a large cutting effect, and yeah, you could take a good chunk of wing off with one of those balloon things with the wire cable. So they are effective, but how effective they are is debatable. Although attempts to intercept bombers in the air were made, the rapidly developing technology of the time, airborne radar, was still very much in its infancy, and would not be filtered to our night fighter aircraft until the following month. Yeah, so at this stage they don't even have radar to find the enemy. Pilots using purely visible detection had very little success engaging and shooting down enemy planes, and this attracted unfair criticism of the RAF at the time, with many of the public wondering why our pilots were so ineffective. Yeah, they couldn't see the fucking Germans. That's why. You have to be able to see them to shoot them down. To better explain this, I will include a paragraph of Emily Coates ahead by the celebrated Guy Gibson, VC, leader of the famous Dambusters raid in 1943, who himself flew over Coventry on one of the nights we were bombed, with every intention of shooting down the Luftwaffe. One particular night, I remember the Huns were bombing Coventry. Everyone will remember the occasion because it was one of the first heavy bomb raids made on a provincial town. I was above and saw it burn, and the only consolation was that I had seen Kiel turn. I had seen Kiel burn better. Right, so Kiel's obviously a German place. There was very little flak, in fact, none. But number 5 bomb group had put in the air about 50 Hamptons, whose job it was to circle the city at 500 feet lower above the city and shoot down any twin-engined aircraft they saw. As there was about 200 Huns as well floating around in the night sky, someone thought that someone might well see something. But this did occur. I never saw a Hampton or a German bomber the whole evening. This convinced me once and for all that the night sky is very, very big. So the reason why they weren't shooting them down at night was it couldn't fucking find them. Radio interference. We will do the breaking of the codes. 3 days earlier, the British had learned that a big German raid was planned. On the 11th of November, intelligence was gathered from 2 sources. A German prisoner of war talking to a roommate, either someone planted or he might have been bugged, about a raid on a larger scale than ever previously attempted, from the Germans' signals decoded by the captured Enigma machine. Intelligence gathered this way was known as Ultra. We didn't so much crack the code of the Enigma machine as we got our hands on an Enigma machine and figured out how to work the bastard. That was how we did the code breaking. Code breaking staff at Bletchley Park, Buckinghamshire, had decrypted material that suggested German operation with the code name Moonlight Sonata, and this would be most likely take place in the period of the full moon around 14th, 15th of November. Also, teasingly, the Germans had sent codes for 3 possible places as a bombing target, but only 2 of them had been detected by the time of the raid. The raid came: Wolverhampton and Birmingham. Target 51, Wolverhampton, had been worked out from the decoded message. Yeah, fuck knows. Which translates as single price. The slogan for the Wolverhampton-based Woolworths store was nothing over 6pence. Yeah. And our scientists soon saw the association. Yeah, so the Germans were actually quite funny with their terms. Target 52, Birmingham, was the home of the former Prime Minister Neville Chamberlain and decoded of German meaning umbrella, an item famously carried by Chamberlain, gave away this as the second possible target. However, the clues for the third target eluded our intelligence staff. And although the word corn kept coming up in various decrypted signals, its meaning was not obvious, and unfortunately, it was not until the afternoon of the 15th that scientists finally realized that the Germans had, in this case, not used any clever cryptic clues, but simply alliteration. Corn was Coventry. So, was there any forewarning? The quick answer to this is yes. As explained above, despite being no definite target gleaned from top secret ultra intelligence, the RAF were able to detect the direction of the German radio beam shortly before an intended raid. On the afternoon of the 14th of November at around 3 p.m., the enemy's direction radio signal appeared to align over Coventry. Although this was not made public, a fascinating piece of information has been passed to me by Tony Clark, whose father, PC Reginald Clark, reported that Coventry's emergency service team were placed on alert at 5 p.m. and warned to expect a heavy air raid. This report was confirmed by several of Reg's colleagues. Tony also adds many of the colleagues also confirmed that there have been messages calling off-duty officers into the St Mary Street police station for briefing and allocation of duties. So there are a couple of hours. There's a couple of hours warning. I'm going to check the chat. Say, yeah. I don't know what this is about, but I'm going to put a name in there. Commander Commander Classified is in. Who's messing with the waffle man? I'm not quite sure. I may know it, but oh yes, there were indeed. But I believe that my version of that song is slightly different from yours, because whenever we sing with the football, it is the RAF of Ulster that shot them down. Do you quite like that little song? Right. Okay. We're 46 minutes in. I'm going to have a little musical interlude because I need to check I need to sneeze and all sorts of stuff. So we will have. Oh, I know what we're going to have. Ha. Yeah, we will keep it on. Yeah. Sounds about right. I think we will actually keep this on topic. 1 second. We do have a. That is not what I expected it to be. I definitely seen this earlier on. There it is. We can get this on the screen. Share screen. Here we go, our musical interlude, and tonight it is actually on very much on topic.
Alwyn Sweetman was dependable and good, did his duty like a constable should. When the fire rained down from the November sky, many people in his hometown died. Now Alwyn did the best that he could, digging in the rubble where the pub once stood. There was times that night he was on his knees, praying, Lord, spare me, won't you spare me, Lord, please. And time takes it away, a little bit further every day, but pain that rained from the November sky. Eric Holt, just 9 years old, lying in a shelter, his eyes to behold, tracer rocking into the night sky. Landmine falling took his daddy's life, and time takes it away a little bit further every day, but time could never disguise the pain that rained from the November sky. In a farmhouse on the edge of town, firestorm raging all around. Little Valerie cried, "Why, God, why?" as St. Michael's lit the Coventry sky. And time takes it away a little bit further every day, but time could never disguise the pain that rained from the November sky. From the ashes of that old town, there rose a spirit of world renown, and that spirit, it'll never die. Still we remember that November sky. Yes, we still remember that November sky.
There you go. There is a nice song about the Blitz and what happened. And with that, we shall get back to the article. Right, the read begins. Are we back? Yeah, and I have actually took it off the. I'm off mute, so we're all good. If the precise details of the forthcoming raid had eluded authorities, the people of Coventry knew even less, and were blissfully ignorant of what was about to be unleashed upon them. According to virtually all witness accounts, the morning of the 14th was just like any other day, with no hint that anything special was about to happen. The first warning locally that a raid was about to strike was just about 10 minutes before 7 o'clock, when our anti-aircraft defense team were told that bombers were heading for Coventry. At 7:10, the siren sounded, and just as the sound of the siren died down, the first showers of incendiaries were already raining on the town from the pathfinding Hinkle 111s above, and it was remarked by some that it was an early start that evening. It was going to be a late finish too. Basically what they would do is the first ones that went over, the Pathfinders, they're going to drop incendiary bombs. That's going to start fires. These fires are going to cause smoke and light, and that's going to guide the remaining bombers on the target. And you can see the photographs here of what was actually going on. Very little remained of Little Park Street by the 15th of November. John Bailey Shelton and the father of Coventry's archaeology lived in the street. Unfortunately, survived that night of terror. He had been determined to stay put that night, but as the house and small factories in the street eventually formed one continuous raging inferno, the fire began to encroach on JB's property, where he also stabled 5 horses. By 1:30 a.m., he, with the help of a neighbour, had purposely led the horses to safety through the flames, a selfless act which he was later honoured with the RSPCA's Queen Victoria Medal, although he managed to save some of his valuable books. Several hundred other books, deeds, photographs, and papers in his personal library perished in the fires that engulfed the property. Despite the intense danger all around, some people still risked their lives to save some important relics of Coventry's past. This famous wooden statue of the Peeping Tom was taken to safety from the soon-to-be destroyed King's Head Hotel and can now be found on display upstairs at the Cathedral Lanes Shopping Centre in Bodgate. And this is the thing that we're talking about here, off the right-hand side. That is not 3 men, that is 2 men and a statue. Once the first batch of incendiaries had fallen and started the fires to mark our doomed city, it was time for the high explosives to do their damage, creating firestorms and bringing down building after building. Of course, the fire spread even quicker due to the existence of so many of Coventry's ancient and closely built timber framed housing. So if you've got a lot of wood in your construction, these type of bombs are going to be a major problem, because one will get you, well, one will lead on to the next house and things deteriorate rather quickly. In earlier raids, many people had found the 18-inch long incendiaries relatively easy to deal with. A bucket of sand usually doing the trick before too much damage could be done. I do have a story about one of these incendiary bombs. Whenever my dad was a kid, they had a warning in the area that they lived during the Blitz that there was incendiary bombs, and everybody was told to look out for it. And of course, my dad, who was one of 5 brothers, the 5 brothers all did go out and have a nosy for one, and by God, they found one. And my uncle decided, oh, we found it, that's ours, brought it back to the house, put it on the stairs, and they were keeping it. And then my granny found out, and the slipper was invoked, and then the fire warden had to come and he put this in the bucket of sand, which meant that the fuse couldn't detonate, and took it away. So there you go. However, tonight the Germans were sending something more fiendish, exploding incendiaries purposely designed to catch people out rather than allow easy quenching in sand. They would explode after a short delay, often badly injuring the person handling it. So they had realized that this was being fixed on the ground, and they found another way. Fortunately, only a small proportion of the firebombs were dropped were the exploding type, and I would say that's probably due to the amount of exploding ones that they had available. The sheer number of these bombs, however, meant that there were far too many to deal with, and by 8 o'clock, only 50 minutes after the first bombs fell, the central fire station had already recorded an outbreak of 240 fires. At that point, the station itself was hit, and they had to cease making detailed notes. One of the things that does go in chaos is the recording procedure. As these fires spread and increased, and by the way, the importance of taking your notes at the time as you go through it is because things get forgotten about whenever you try to figure it all back out together the next day. Think of it like trying to document a night out with 5 drunk people, and you were also drunk, and then the next day you've got to try and fucking decide what everybody said and did and where they went, and that doesn't make for accurate records. As the fire spread and increased in number, it seemed that nowhere could possibly escape destruction. Even in such dreadful circumstances, though, people afterwards recalled many tales of a more light-hearted nature, including the sweet smell of tobacco smoke issuing from the burning newsagents. Salmon and Gungston on the corner of Buggered High Street. Another lady recalled that a pig hanging up in the butcher's shop was cooked to perfection. I wonder did you go in and get some? Well, actually, there's the thing. You taking anything from anywhere it was bomb damaged was a very severe no-no. The raid affected everyone in different ways, and despite the loss of so many lives and properties, youngsters could still turn this into an adventure. Evident here, some of them searched amongst the rubble in the remains of the cathedral. It was towards 8 o'clock when the incendiary started to fall on the cathedral roof. More photographs and information about this building, synonymous with Coventry Church, can be found on the page. So that'll take you to something else. And the next page, the air raid continues. As the raid progressed, a mixture of high explosives, incendiaries, oil bombs, and landmines came down and gradually oriented city centre, the street plan of which had not significantly altered since medieval times, succumbed to the ferocity of the attack, the likes of which had never been seen in any town our size. Below the ground, thousands of bewildered citizens sat tight in dozens of air raid shelters and hundreds more small Anderson shelters, as some shelters had become untenable through earlier nearby explosions or fires which turned them into large ovens. It was a common occurrence that night for streams of people to be led to another already crowded shelter by the amazed air raid wardens who risked their lives constantly during the 11-hour onslaught. So the air raidings, while this is going on, they're trying to fucking sort things out as it's happening. Incredibly brave people doing an incredibly dangerous job. Most were saved by these structures, but few could withstand the direct hit. And by the end of the raid, over 500 people were left dead and over 1,000 more injured. And this is a photograph of the devastation that was left. This was an official US press photograph showing the rest of the world what the Germans had done to Coventry. In this particular case, Earl Street, as seen from Jordan Well. The stream of people still attempting to file onto work the next day, picking their way through the rubble, highlighted perfectly by the point that the world's press wanted to make. The Germans cannot bomb us into submission. So these people, this has just happened. This happened last night. These were houses last night, and the next morning they're like, fuck, we'll have to go to work. Because everything that we do is connected to the war effort, and if we stop doing that, we lose the war. Necessity is a hell of a motivator. The council house clock tower is clearly visible through the haze of smoke, and although the building had virtually all of its windows blown from the bomb blast, it survived the night of November 14th remarkably unscathed. Just a scattering of wounds on the stone work, which can still be seen as you pass. Although the Germans generally confined their bombings to a relatively small area of the centre of Coventry, roughly half a mile by 3/4 centred around Bruchegate, there were quite a few that were dropped outside this target area. One of the worst cases being a stick of 6 bombs falling by mistake in the centre of Leavington, sadly killing 7 people. On a slightly lighter note, one of those same bombs caused a memorial statue to Queen Victoria to move 1 inch on its plinth. Yeah. Queen Vic, she was like, yeah, no, I'll shuffle a little bit, but that's it. Generally, though, despite the Germans claiming to be targeting military objectives such as our factories, the bombing was quite indiscriminate. There was no such thing as targeted bombing uh, or overly accurate bombing from fucking 6,000 feet. In addition to the infamous destruction to our cathedral, the planes appeared to be regularly dropping bombs on the on or near the Coventry and Warwickshire Hospital. It's possible that from above it could have been mistaken for a factory, but that would have been small comfort to the terrified patients, nurses, and doctors inside, who performed virtually miraculous deeds in seemingly impossible circumstances. And not only Coventry-based services, dozens of fire engines from surrounding areas, including Solihull, raced to Coventry to tackle blazes. But as water mains were eventually hit by explosives, their brave attempts were shattered. Hard to put out fires without water. Found that out in America recently. All night long, the seemingly never-ending attack continued. That brought about many acts of heroism, but equally many in indescribable error. Not being directly hit by a bomb was not a guarantee of staying alive, and some residents of Coventry paid the price of not recognising a strange object that dropped by parachute and blocked the roadway. It was, of course, one of the so-called landmines, but not realising this, the group of people tried to push it out of the way to clear the way for an ambulance. The mine exploded and the poor souls around it. Nothing remained. Yeah. This type of incident also caused many problems later for the authorities because the absence of identifiable corpses made it extremely difficult to work out how many had been killed and who they were. This problem was exacerbated by the fact that many people left Coventry during these periods for the relative safety of the countryside, and many apparently missing people had simply gone elsewhere. Although they didn't have a lot of warning for this, so I'm not sure that many would have went out to the countryside that night unless it was their normal practice to do so. This photo, taken some weeks after the Blitz, shows the spires in the background, which were previously undetectable through the haze of smoke. Yeah, you can see the spire of the cathedral, I'm guessing that is. By the time of this raid, a huge slice of Coventry's population had moved out of the city. Exact figures are not recorded, but estimates vary from 50,000 to 100,000 people, which equates to somewhere between a quarter and a half of the total population. One cannot blame these people for wanting to flee the city, but it did create certain problems. One being that in many house and small businesses were started by one being that fires in many houses and small businesses were started by stray incendiary bombs, and unattended premises would soon become an inferno. So if you've left your house and an incendiary bomb lands in it, that is going to go on fire, and you will come back to nothing. Not good. Reverend G.W. Clinton of Holy Trinity Church was rather scathing about such activities and reminded us in his book Coventry Under Fire, written shortly after the raids, that one or two vigilant people could easily deal with occasional incendiary devices. 1 second, I need to cough. Somewhere just outside the city, I would guess. And then they moved in and out to get back to and from their place of employment. Where was I? Oh, yeah. However, this was all too often not the case, and thousands of people wearily returned to the streets where they lived the next morning to find that they no longer had an habitable home. Holy Trinity, meanwhile, still stood proud, in no small part due to the almost superhuman efforts and diligence of Cathro and a small team, who made sterling preparations before the raids by purchasing bowls, purchasing powerful hydrants and ladders, and placing these plus buckets of sand and water all around the nine roofs of the church. Catherine's fighting spirit embraced all that was best about British character. He even wished for an anti-aircraft gun on the church roof so that he could fight back against the enemy rather than simply defending his property. Yeah, give me a gun on that church roof. God will guide it. The resolve of Coventry's bombarded citizens had never, however, been tested such extraordinary way, and nobody could begin to guess what sort of scene would be presented to them as they crawled out of their shelters the next morning. So we're on to the next day. At 6:16 a.m., Coventry was sent the Raiders pass signal. However, due to the damaged electricity set, most of the all clear sirens did not sound. But many people had been told by passing police or raid wardens that the raid was over. Gradually, people came out of their shelters below the ground and began to realise that firstly, everything they once recognised was now gone. Fuck. Imagine waking up that. This picture sums up why the Germans couldn't break the British spirit. After all they've thrown it, this couple are still smiling bravely, even if they are cursing the Germans under their breath. Yeah. Many reports at the time and since have spoken of the heroism of the people of Coventry and how well they bore this terrifying ordeal. In the weeks that followed, this was certainly true, but the very next day, the eyewitness accounts suggest a very different story. Many people wandered around, either totally bewildered by the destruction of their hometown, or simply trying to find their bearings and recognize a street, or just a single building, so they could work out where to go. So many lost their homes and, of course, their loved ones, that it was all too much for them, and the sheer panic set in. People crying, screaming, and frantically searching for someone they knew, not knowing whether they had perished under the collapsed structure or simply separated from them during the chaos of the raid, and eventually to appear in another shelter. And who could expect anything different? There was no precedent for this, no rules of how to behave under such horrendous circumstances. Yeah, this is the other thing that we do as people. Every new occurrence creates new behaviours, and the people who go through this shit first are the ones that set the marker down for how to carry on. The sights and scenes of that day can only be imagined by younger generations who must have lived with the memories for a lifetime. Even nowadays, we often meet folk who lived through wartime bombing, and despite the passing of time, still don't like to talk about it. Not too surprising in hindsight, for the streets on the 15th of November were not only filled with rubble, but also strewn with corpses and body parts. Not a sight that anyone, let alone a child, should ever have to set eyes upon, which is true. With the town centre of Coventry being relatively small and the bombing so concentrated, the initial feeling of many people that morning was that Coventry is finished. And they simply wanted to leave, to get away from it all. The whole event was just too shocking for anyone to take a calm, objective view, and they wandered around feeling helpless. With so many places of work were flattened too, that without being able to contribute towards the war effort, there temporarily seemed to be no sense of direction in their lives. Everyone, whatever their position, was deeply affected by the raid. The loss of so many fine historic buildings was too much for a Coventry historian, Frederick Smith, who was also a town clerk. He was found in tears by a reporter who went to meet him at the council house that Friday. Fred Smith would later write a detailed history of our city in a book called Coventry, 600 Years of Municipal Life. To assist in both clearing up the mess and keeping some semblance of order, hundreds of police and soldiers were brought into Coventry that next day. Initially, 600 soldiers arrived, later hundreds more, including many Royal Engineers, to help the safe demolition of the numerous precariously balanced buildings. The most dangerous job, though, was undoubtedly the neutralising of unexploded or delayed action bombs, for which the Navy's bomb disposal team were brought in. These devices were purposely dropped by the Germans to disrupt the clearance. Yeah, so you can't just move bulldozers in to start moving large bodies of rubble if you don't know whether or not there are bombs in there. So that's why they do that. And that it certainly did. More casualties were added to the total on the next day from the unexpected blast of hidden bombs. And rather than being able to get on with things, life came to a standstill for some as they waited for cordoned off areas to be made safe. It was recorded that 211 of these fiendish devices had to be dealt with altogether. So if you're wanting to get into your factory or heaven forbid your house and there's an unexploded bomb in there and they've cordoned the area off, you can't go in until that's been dealt with. As the day wore on, the authorities attempted to piece things together. The council, led by Mayor John Mosley, known as Jack, and the government department of the Ministry of Information tried to organise and give advice. The mobile canteens were set up by the WVS, that's a women's voluntary service, to feed the thousands of citizens who had both nothing to eat and nowhere to cook. Yeah, your house is blown up, your ration card's gone. And even if you can't get the stuff, you have nowhere to cook it. So they bring in the kitchens. The problem that started to come to light in Coventry that day were almost too numerous to mention. But amongst the most severe issues were the lack of it. In virtually the whole of the city, water, electricity, and gas main supplies. Although lack of power was obviously an inconvenience, the lack of mains water was by far the most serious, and the biggest concern was the outbreak of typhoid through lack of hygiene and contaminated water obtained from the broken pipes. Yeah, because you will get a broken pipe inside one of those piles of rubber, and water will seep out. And if you're incredibly thirsty with all that dust and stuff, and that's the only liquid that you can get your hands on, it's a really hard decision. Mine would be to continue looking, but at some point, yeah, so that was a real worry. Initially, large tankers of any kind had to be used to bring water from the outside, the largest available being a large cooperative creamery milk tanker. Typhoid was still a real risk, however, and over the following few days, about 30,000 anti-typhoid inoculations were carried out by dedicated medical staff. But as the people of Coventry had always done throughout history, slowly but surely they rallied and bounced back into action. There was a job to be done, and once the shock had worn off, it was time to get back on with it. Nobody was yet aware, but the next day something would happen that would raise morale quicker than anyone could have expected. This is a fine aerial photo from shows St Michael's Church before its late Victorian restoration, and still over 30 years away from its promotion to cathedral. It remains an iconic yet sad fact that the strengthening of the roof in the late 19th century was partially responsible for its eventual downfall. The King's visit. Here we go. I'm going to check the chat. Oh, yeah, it has. Our Labour government has done more damage than the fucking Germans. Yep, I'll agree with that. Spanish chicken. Yep, over 500 dead. Yep. It was not good. Not good in any way, shape, or form. Nah. The afternoon after the raid, King George VI was informed of Coventry's incredible ordeal and decided there and then that he should visit the next day, Saturday. The visit was not publicly announced, but the authorities and Mayor John Mosley, known as Jack, who had only been made mayor 5 days before the Blitz, and his family were pre-warned. The initial reaction was mild panic that we weren't ready to entertain such a guest in our war-torn city. But after talking on the phone with officials at Buckingham Palace, their minds were put at rest that the king was quite prepared and would even bring sandwiches. Now, you know what? There's a king. I'm going to a place that's totally fucked. I'm bringing my own food with me. Because they ain't got the stuff to be doing for anybody from outside, with the exception of the workers. So I'm bringing food. Cool. I need to cough. I don't think they hit the cathedral and the houses on purpose. I think what happens is you go 6,000 feet up in the air and you try to drop fucking bombs on factories, and whatever's in the immediate area is going to get fucking plastered along with it. It's just how that goes. The kindergarten equipment was fitted to all German bombers. 1 second. I don't know. That was the line of radio waves the target. Yeah. I know they had triangulation of sorts and whatnot, but the things just were not accurate at the best of times. The king made a great impression on everyone present, and in Howard's word, his whole attitude was one of intense sympathy and grief. One of the principles which had fallen from an outer wall was later erected on the spot where King George stayed, marked with a plaque, and is now known as the King's Pinnacle. King George spent several hours touring Coventry that day, including a cold meal at the council house. And wherever he went, the transformation was astonishing. Nobody expected to see him, and several people took a few seconds to actually recognize and take in exactly whom they had suddenly found themselves face to face with. A Welshman who had by then lived in Coventry was the subject of an amazing royal memory. The king had seen this man in Wales a few years earlier, working on a house to be presented to a young princess. young princesses, Elizabeth and Margaret, and still remembered the face. Altogether, the effect on the worn-out citizens after seeing the king was immeasurable, and George appreciated the fact, feeling that it was duty to raise morale wherever possible. The people of Coventry once more found the determination to make plans to start rebuilding their lives and their city. What's really important about this is you live in this city, and overnight it's been fucking pulverized, and you don't think that it's safe, and that's where you've got to live. And then the next thing that happens is the king turns up, and you're thinking, well, if this place was still in danger, if this was going to happen again, they wouldn't allow the king to go there. And that in itself is a statement that you can carry on with your life. A real piece of leadership by King George. But what a task that was going to be. For many, the immediate ambition was simply to have some drinking water, a good meal, a place to sleep, and if possible, a cup of tea. Now, what I'm going to check now is the chat, how long we're going. "300 yards. Show what map? I'm curious as to what map you want me to show, because I don't seem to have one. No, I don't. I am clean out of maps. I think his controller was selling us out. Yeah. Right. Now, that is going to conclude our Coventry Blitz bit, and we are going to have a musical interlude. And this one, yep. Oh, other thing I meant to say earlier in the shout-outs, Mr. Dave Waffle is the only person Max one, oh my god. Yeah, I don't have a map, so I can't show you one. But we're going to have a musical interlude, and yep, as I was going to say, Mr. Dave Waffle House is the only other person that's been trying to promote this. But I'm going to do so now. And here we go. Musical interlude. Who are ye, in rags and rotten shoes, all dirty and bearded, blocking up the way?
We are English. We come from the edge of Europe,
beyond which lies only water, ice
and death.
This is the place we made our home.
Raised our cattle, planted the crops, evoked their gods from circles formed of stone, so those gods could witness us atone.
When Roman forces did invade, we fought as lions, refused to yield, and those we left out in the field, of the English, they were the seed.
Who adversity did propagate, an indomitable people who we would fight, toil and mock in equal measure, and find humour in our adversity, because that is our way. The battle-weary tribes besieged by Vikings,
banded as brothers with Angles, Jutes and Saxons, took some years of consideration
to produce our culture of toleration. The creation of the English nation at Stamford Bridge we won the day, but William was quickly on his way.
1066, the commutation brought the cursed Norman invasion. A ruling class they would impose until calls for Magna Carta arose. And to all the kings the message was sent: you only rule us by consent.
So what of the English, I hear you ask? You know us as the working class, the ones whose toil, blood and sweat brought you the greatest empire yet. So you should learn at your mother's knee of revolutions that number 3.
That number 3.
1, 2, 3.
Agricultural, where mechanised planting and harvesting was married to selective breeding, we created a food surplus, the envy of the world. Industrial, where we conjured cities to house factories inhabited by a well-earned workforce to man the machines. This coupled to the ingenuity of English engineers who never found a problem without a solution. The third, the glorious one, that brought about civil and religious liberty, one rule for all, and the radical notion that a man should profit from his labours. But we are not greedy. We exported our language, our law, our sense of fair play. In our safe shipping lanes trade flows through never-ending day.
And when Britannia ruled the waves,
we used our power to free all slaves. We managed the world and allowed all others to travel in the social order we created with humour in adversity, because that is our way. Achievements we have too many to list. From this small kingdom God has kissed, we travelled the world from the highest mountain to Arctic's Kabatic, tundra and back again. The traces of our canvas are in our railway lines that transport the world to work, our compassion in the water systems that hydrates foreign soil.
We left everywhere better than we found it, because that is our way.
I could list another thing or two, like how we taught the world to queue, but I'll leave that for another occasion. It's time to have a celebration. Admire the wonders of our creation. To our ancestors, homage we must pay for doing things the English way. For we are the English, and this is our day.
And rotten shoes, all dirty and beer, blocking up the way.
We are the pilgrims, master. We shall go always that little bit further. It may be beyond that last blue mountain barred with snow, across that angry or glimmering sea. We are the English.
Every Englishman's house is his castle. So hoist your colours on the ramparts for England Day. Then down after St George's Day. We are English, and we'll be patriotic in an organised way.
All right. Okay. Let us address something. Max, Cohen, whatever. Right. Here's a crack. I have no clue what fucking map you're on about. I know you would like to see a map for the area of damage, but I don't have one. So I can't put it on the screen. It ain't going to happen. Nah. I've said that 4 times. Anybody who's not a fucking child would have heard me say, I don't have a map, I'm not going to put it on the screen. I can't put it on the screen. You don't seem to be getting that. So, do me a favour. Grow the fuck up. Accept that there's not going to be a map put on the screen. Or fuck up. And fuck off. 1 a.m. too. Because you're starting to get irritating. Right. Oh, What the fuck you on about, Dan? I don't know. Speak English, chum. Does anyone else see what? That they're supposedly accurate to 300 meters? Nah, that's not Bill. Bill can be equally irritating, but not in this way, shape, or form. Right. Now, I want to say something else about Coventry. Since we're on a Coventry thing, there is a saying called Sent To Coventry. And I'm going to a little bit of info on that. So we'll share this screen. Sent to Coventry. An idiom. To send someone to Coventry is an idiom used in England meaning to deliberately ostracize someone. Typically, this is done by not talking to them, avoiding their company, and acting as if they no longer exist. Victims are treated as though they are completely invisible and inaudible. Coventry is a cathedral city historically in Warwickshire. Yeah, so we all know the term. Now we're going to get to where that came from, which, like everything else from English history, starts with it's not really known. We've heard that before, which means we're fucking trying to cover shit up. I think he stopped. I do believe he has now stopped. The origins of this phrase are unknown, although it is quite probable that events in Coventry in the English Civil War in the 1640s play a part. One hypothesis is that its origin is based upon the history of the rebellion and civil wars in England by Edward Hyde, 1st Earl of Carrollton. In this work, Carrollton recounts how royalist troops were captured in Birmingham, were taken prisoners to Coventry, which was a parliamentarian stronghold, and these troops were often not received too warmly. I'm going to take a quick moment. All the English Civil War stuff has got a slight problem in that we call the side that we would now call the left, the dictator arseholes. We call them the royalists, and the parliamentarians are actually the people that wanted a functional king. This is done to obfuscate the actual cause of the English Civil War and what the outcome should have been. But to be clear, the parliamentarians were the people on Cromwell's side, and the royalists were the bad king. And it wasn't so much that Cromwell wanted to do away with the king. He wanted to do away with a king that was not working correctly as it should do in conjunction with Parliament. So that's where this term "sent to Coventry" comes from. During that English Civil War, prisoners were taken to Coventry, and the natives refused to speak or interact with them. Maybe something to think about. Avoid at all costs interactions with people that you strongly disagree with in your day-to-day life. It lets them know that they're not welcome. Maybe have a think about that. So there's that. Now, there's also a thing called the Coventry Act. A book entitled The Lives of the Most Remarkable Criminals states it charges the second passing act whereby any person with malice aforethought by lying in wait, unlawfully cutting out or disabling the tongue, putting out of an eye, slitting of the nose, cutting off the nose or lip, or any subject of His Majesty shall suffer death. This was called the Coventry Act after Sir John Coventry, who was an MP, not of the local area, but that just happened to be his name, who had his nose slit to the bone by attackers. Ah, right. So, and a law come up about that, saying you couldn't do that. Some have suggested that the idiom derives from the ostracism that became the fate of Coventry's legendary Peeping Tom. However, it is surprising that there is no recorded use between 1050s, the origin of the tale, and the first possible example of this suggested by Oxford Dictionary dated 1647. Further, there's no support for this deviation in Brewer's Dictionary of Phrase and Fable, 1981, the Oxford English Dictionary, blah, 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 blah. So, another story about Coventry is this Coventry is also where Lady Godiva hails from. And the one person that decided to look at her whenever she was going through the town undressed, and that person didn't get spoken to. But basically, that has nothing to do with the term Sent To Coventry. It's a First World War, it's a Civil War thing. Interestingly, whenever I was learning history at school, the place of education, we were told about the Coventry Blitz, and we were also told about the term Sent To Coventry, and we were told about it being connected to prisoners of war. I had wrapped all those together and thought that there was a German prisoners of war camp in World War II close to Coventry, and the locals refused to speak them. But no, it goes back further than that. It's into the English Civil War. And with that, I'm going to check the chat. Now we have plus-size trans woman of colour reenacting Lady Godiva. I'm sure we fucking will. What else would happen? Now, see the people who were wanting in the English Civil War? No, you're spot on. The English Civil War did have two sides. On the side of the people who wanted a dictator, a king that could just do whatever he wanted, whenever, however, raise taxes whenever he wanted. Everything was just his to command. They were the Catholics. That's how the Catholic wanted to be ruled, because the king would also then put all of their crimes into ecumenical religious churches and not criminal ones, so that they and also involved with this is the selective use of prosecutions. And it was the Catholics on the Catholics were on the royalist side, and they were sent to Coventry, which was a parliamentary side that wanted one rule of law for everybody, and they were Protestants. So yes, that's where the whole thing comes from. Yep, there you go. With that, we are at 44. What else am I going to do? I'm going to talk a little bit about Movember, because we are indeed in the month of November, where we do have a bit of a look at men's health and issues that affect men in general. This year for Movember, what I'm doing is I am doing one more pull-up than I did the day before. And today being the 15th of November, I had the joy of doing 3 sets of 5 pull-ups, and tomorrow there's going to be an extra one added on to that. On the 16th, I might try for 2 8s. We will see. It's all a little bit confusing, but that's where we're at with that. And I am going to Coventry is a ghost town now. I'm not quite sure what that alludes to. So that's what I'm doing for November. I also hope to see, this is where date lines and all things get a bit confusing with the people from down under, because they can be in the future or the past or whatever. It's all fucking mad. The other thing I'm going to do is hopefully I'm going to have a video about November, Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Obviously, the focusing on the idea that before you start to think about improving your health, you need to make sure that your living situation is squared away. Bottom line of Maslow's hierarchy of needs is oxygen, food, water, clothing, shelter. How is that all looking? Make sure that is properly dialed in before you then start, because if you do attempt to improve your health, if that bottom line is not all squared away, it's not going to work for you. Oh, yes, and apparently Mexico is getting a little bit tasty and spicy. I know that they were clearing out some of the Pabelos, or whatever it is you call those little shanty towns up in the hills, and there was a lot of insurgents in there, and it was basically like a bit of a fucking war. Really not good. Really, really not good. So there's that. Yep. Hopefully, but hopefully there shall be a actual video created that has been scripted and recited and had images put to it and whatnot. Oh fuck! Come on, Matt. Ha! Right, that's okay. So we will see how it goes. And with that, I'm going to start. I think there could well be a fucking double outro coming here. I'm getting ready to close this down. I'm going to remove that one from the studio. I think what we will have now is a little bit of Billy Blogs is in with car manufacturing. What will we have? We will have a little bit of. Actually, you know what we're going to do? We're going to do this. We're going to eat some bugs.
Welcome to the resistance.
You were all nothing, and you will be happy. As you were eating these bugs.
Oh shit, man. Eat the bugs? You got me wrong. You got me so wrong. You ever seen a cave drawing of somebody with a spear hunting a mosquito? Well, me either. We eat meat and we have choices. You cook the hedgehog right? It tastes like chicken. Fucking chicken. I ain't eating your bugs. I ain't eating your bugs. I started off with nothing and I'm never going back. I'm not getting on your progressive track. With Agenda 2030, I refuse to engage. I can see where it is going and it's just another cage. I've got hedgehog, I've got rabbit, I've got wild hog. Fuck it, I could even move to Alaska and get me a nice caribou. Fuck it, I'm not eating your bugs. what I got so hard to get, so I'm going to say no to your cattle Coventry. Eat the bugs, live in some communal pod with no fucking privacy. Own nothing and be happy. I've seen the people with nothing and they don't look happy. Eat the bugs, live in some communal pod with no fucking privacy. Own nothing and be happy. I'm not eating your bugs. Fuck it. Fuck it. I'm not eating your bugs. Fuck it. I'm not eating your bugs. Fuck it. Fuck it. Oh shit, man, you got me wrong. You got me so fucking wrong. There are millions of us in the UK, billions worldwide, unvaccinated, striding out into our third winter of death with not a care in the world. Eating pig, eating cow, eating chicken, and we will not conform. Fuck it, I'm not eating your bugs. Hey, Klaus Schwab, this is 42, and I want the word with you. Motherfucker.
This is the fourth industrial revolution. We have a window of opportunity for the great reset. Technology is a critical weapon. History is truly at a turning point. We can shape a better world, and we will reglobalize to make it a better place. So we'll all love, and so we'll be happy, and so we'll eat the bugs.
Why we got me talking? Why is United Nations in charge of Stonehenge? Keeping me away from the stones? That's not world heritage, that's British heritage. You're getting to the point where the people just want to be left alone and going to be involved. Tell me again, why is United Nations running Stonehenge? Fuck it. Stonehenge, New Games, a fucking Perry Mountain Range, now owned by UNESCO, so you and I can never go. Fuck your 15-minute cities and your Internet of Things. We are going back to nature, see what that life brings. We had a good look at the banning new day, so we hook up with the Woodlander and take our shit off grid. Fuck it. We hook up with the Woodlander and take our shit off grid. Fuck it. We'll hook up with the Woodlander and take our shit off grid.
You were all as you were. Eat the bugs. Eat the bugs. So we'll be happy. This is 42 speaking. Welcome to the Resistance.
Fuck it. Right, we'll take that out. Nah. Did you clip out the dogs in front of me with mud floods? I'm not sure. I have had a change of computer from made that video. I'm not sure if I do actually still have the mud flood one. Polly, is that the first you've seen that one? That's been about for quite a while. You just must have missed it. But that has been about for a while. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to play Harmony, Melody, and Rhyme. I will put your comments up on the screen, and this is the actual outro. Well, you may get a bonus outro. One never knows. One never knows.
Yep, there we go. Harmony, melody, and rhyme. Coming up.
Hello, this is 42 speaking. Welcome to the Resistance. You are not alone, and we shall walk this journey together. What about you, John? If one brings a guitar and one brings a voice, then they stand together and make their own choice. Let us gather together those that can perform, and from the scarred timbers build our own platform. From that grand house they tried to burn down, there's gold in the ashes if you look around. Let us gather together those that can perform, then from those scarred timbers build our own platform. Build our own platform. We will sing words of wisdom. We will sing for all harmony, melody, and rhyme. We descended from minstrels in old days of yore. We will create a culture as we did once before, forced to stand by as our country was sold. Did you really think we'd leave that story untold? So one brings a guitar and one brings a voice, then they stand together and make their own choice. They have seen the future, the way forward is clear. Among us still stands a modern day Shakespeare. They have seen the future, the way forward is clear. Among us still stands a modern day Shakespeare. Stand by as our country was sold. Did you really think we'd leave that story untold? We will sing words of wisdom. We will sing we will sing harmony, melody, rhyme. Harmony, melody, and rhyme. So one brings a guitar and one brings a voice, then they stand together and make their own choice. I have seen the future, the way forward is clear. Among us still stands a modern day Shakespeare. You cannot kill a dream. So we will gather together those that can perform, and from the scarred timbers build our own platform. You're talking to 42. What about you, chum? If one brings a guitar and one brings a voice, then they stand together and make their own choice. Sing words of wisdom, we will sing for all time. We will sing for our people, harmony, melody, and rhyme. We will sing words of wisdom, we will sing for all time. We will sing for our people with the ancient trilogy of harmony, melody, rhyme. you never realized you cannot kill a dream. You cannot kill a dream. And we shall walk this journey together.
No surrender. Okay, everybody. I've been 42. You lot in the chat have, as always, been fucking amazing. Thank you for sticking with me. Good night. God bless. See you all next week. I'm out of here. Goodbye.